Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Lee and you're watching Barham Engines. So what we've got here is a Vauxhall Corsa flywheel. And as you can see, we're lightening the back end, and you're probably thinking, what on earth are you lightening a Vauxhall Corsa flywheel? Well, this is for the banger racing boys. We seem to do quite a lot of these for various things, usually the Mondeos and the Fords and stuff, but yeah, they like to take a bit of weight off it just so it revs a bit higher. They say because they only use sort of first and second gear, they just want it to rev out a little bit more. I suppose with banger racing, it doesn't really matter if it blows up. But yeah, that's what they like to do, so that's what we're doing. So this is the first Jaguar head that we're going through. As you can see, we've soda blasted it thoroughly. We haven't done the seats yet. We've given a lick of what we call a recon in a can. So give it a lick of silver paint, and we're just in the process of facing it. So I've took off 5 thou off the cylinder head so far. You can see it's cleaned both ends, but hasn't cleaned in the middle. So around this area here is where it's definitely been blowing, and the same on this one. So this head is slightly warm, so I'm suspecting this motor has got pretty warm. So this is the second head here off the Jag. As you can see, we've stripped out the cams and the buckets, and because they're not a hydraulic lifter, they're a solid lifter, sort of kept them in order along with all the valves, and at least then we know once we cut the seats, we've sort of got half a chance of getting the clearances back where they should be without any effort. So just brought it outside now. Just going to first of all pressure wash it, and then we're going to soda blast it. The idea of this really is just to get all the oil off, basically. We've got to let it dry thoroughly afterwards, otherwise when you start soda blasting, it just sticks to the oil and you end up with a big ball of soda. You can't see exactly where you've gone. So this is cylinder head number 2 from the Jaguar, and as you can see, we've given a 5 thou cut for the first cut, and this one seems to be even worse than the first one. Like I said on the first one, you can sort of see a few visible marks here where it's been blowing the gasket, but this is proper bent. Now the first head, so this one cleaned at 10 thou, and the valves, sort of when we vacuum the valves, if you have a look on this gauge here, anything above 400 without the springs in is sort of good to go, but this one was showing about 200, especially on the centre 2 pots. So rather than cut the seats, because these are a little 5mm stem, rather than cut the seats, we've just decided to lap the valves in, just so we don't go too far down with the valves, because obviously we've got the solid buckets over here. See these ones? They look a bit like hydraulic, but they've got a shim in the top, and they're just a solid bucket. So rather than sort of bring the clearances too far closed, we've just lapped them, and then we'll stick the cams in without the springs and the buckets, and we'll just check the clearances. We're probably going to have to open them up slightly, and the way we do that is either off the, sometimes we go off the back of the stem, so providing it's not too much, you can take it off the back of the stem here, and you do that on our valve facer. So you've got the left hand side of the valve facer which faces the 45 degree or the 30 degree on some there, and then the other side you can take it off the back of the stem. And what that does is, one, it saves you having to either grind shims or put new shims in to get the right clearance, but two, because these are all standard, they're all the same size shims, it's good practice while the head's off. If we take it all off the valve, then you know that you've got all the same size shims in case the engine ever needed the clearances doing in the vehicle. Just saves sort of confusion really. So while the head's off and we've got the springs off and that, we just take it off the back. The only thing you've got to be careful of is if the clearances are, if you have to cut the seats on some heads, you know, quite a lot, you've got to be very careful on the back that you don't sort of run too close to the top of the collets or the spring top, because obviously then what happens is rather than the base of this bucket sitting on the top of the valve, it will sit on top of the spring top or the collet and give you a false reading on the clearance. So just have to make sure of that really. But this head's all lapped in now. We're going to obviously get the cams in there, do the clearances, and this head, you can just see through there, it still hasn't cleaned on an area, so this is going to need another cut. So that's going to be about 13 thou we took off that head. So this is probably, well, definitely going to need the valves lapping good and proper. So we've been over to Stewart's and got both sets of cams and the cam caps. We're just about to put the cams in this one and then set about doing the clearances. This one over here, really weirdly, this one was more bent than the other head. This is number 2 head. This was 13 thou bent, but just very strangely the exhausts all vacuum in perfect, so we'll just give them a very little lap, and the inlets sort of go to about 200, 300 maybe, so they're not too bad. So basically the valves are better in this than in the other one, but still not perfect, so we're going to lap these ones. So we've just done another bit for the Jag turn up. This is a tensioner pulley for the, I think, for the supercharger. So I'm going to whip this over to Stuart and Pete, and we are, I think, auxiliary wise, this is the last of the bits. Just waiting for the engine bits, which should turn up hopefully Monday, Tuesday, and we can start cracking on. So guys, it's Friday afternoon and we've all got that Friday feeling. The weather's lovely out there, so really looking forward to this weekend. Made great progress with the Jag. See, the cylinder heads are nearly done. I'm going to give Isaac a lesson on Monday, and I'm going to introduce you to Isaac, I do promise, on Monday, and that'll be the heads finished then. The block I shall also show you on Monday. We've cleaned that up, we've given that a lick of paint, we've deglazed the bores. The bores come up really well actually, although they measured a couple of thou over in places. I personally don't think there's going to be any issue with that. A lot of you guys out there in the comments, I noticed, sort of said, how come you're getting involved with this? I thought that you said you don't deglaze bores and get... It's one of those, there's going to be a disclaimer on this. All we're doing really in theory is we're putting the pistons, rods and the crank in. Alfa Ragazzi are going to build the engine up. So we're not building the engine. We're certainly not reconditioning it. And, you know, the customer's well aware of the, you know, the warranty scenario with it. So that's up to him, isn't it? All I can do is advise him, you know, on the bores, oversized pistons are not available, so what do you do? But anyway, that's all going to be in writing, so we've got that clear. The only thing is, with the Jag, now this is my mistake, and I'm going to probably ask for, as I say, I'm going to ask for your advice on this, and whether some of you guys that are into the Jags and what have you will probably know better than me where to look. But I've tried a few of our suppliers, well, 2 of our suppliers that would be our best bet, and I've also tried the main dealer, and I'm having no luck on the main bearing bolts or the main bolts and the conrod bolts. It was only when I went to the Autodata to print off the information for when I build it up, because all the bits are going to be here hopefully Monday, Tuesday. I noticed that you've got to renew the bolts, and to be honest, I should have thought about this at the beginning. But so I got in touch with our suppliers. No luck on the bolts. They've been in touch with a couple of specialists. No luck there. At the very least, we need the 10 centre main bolts, which are an M10 by 140 long. They are a stretch bolt, so we need to renew them, but I'm really struggling on knowing where to find them. So if any of you guys can help me out, it'd be much appreciated, because at the minute I'm a bit twitchy over this. And also the conrod bolts, no luck on those either. I'm going to try my hardest to see if we can get you know, if I can't get the originals, we're gonna have to get like an ARP bolt or something if we can. I don't know, but I tried the main dealer, so I rang Jag, where we got a lot of the other auxiliary bits from, and they said, yeah, we can supply the conrod bolts, but they come with a conrod. So a lot of help that is. So yeah, if any of you guys know, then you could get me out of the poop a little bit, because we're going to be struggling without those. Apart from that, yeah, you've seen what the cylinder head's like. So a lot of you guys there said, look, the symptoms that I give you before we started machining on this Jag, you guys said, look, this is going to be, this thing's overheated. They're renowned for overheating, and you're absolutely right, they are. The block face fortunately looks really good. The liners that are in there, the cast iron liners, they're very, very slightly proud. They're about 2 thou proud of the block, so we're not going to face the block. Stuck a straight edge on, it's absolutely perfect, but the heads did bend, and as you've seen by the video, we've had to sort the valves out. So just going to do the clearances Monday, and I shall let you know in Monday's video what they're like. But yeah, whether the problem of it overheating was something to do with the thermostat, because I showed you that the thermostat doesn't come separate to the housing. There's that O-ring in the bottom which are dislodged, so maybe something to do with that, I don't know. We're going to have to check out obviously the cooling system on it and make sure everything's all right. But yeah, it's one of those jobs. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Really hope you have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the weather. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you Monday. Take care, guys.